I was talking to one of my homies in radio yesterday, and he was telling me, he's like, yo man, like gospel radio is gonna need to embrace Christian rap more.
Absolutely.
And I said, I think it's long overdue. I said part of the challenge though is the traditional black church has never really fully embraced Christian rap. Like
Right.
It's been in pockets, but I'm like, a lot of times our outgrowth of the kind of music we want to listen to from a gospel perspective is an outgrowth of what we hear in our churches on Sundays.
Absolutely.
In some way, shape, form, or fashion, man. So I would love to hear your perspective on, just from what you've seen over the years, why
really
it's
easy.
been so slow.
That's really easy. Real easy. Gospel music, what is called gospel music, comes from the church.
Sure.
Christian hip hop comes to the church. Very, very simple. So that's number one. Gospel has submitted itself under pastoral leadership and even respected it. Christian hip hop, if we admit it.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's get the people what they want. The Wade-O Radio Show.
Listen, man, it's not too often that, us as black people, man, we joke around a lot and we say, man, what's up, Doc? How you doing, Doc? I can really say, what's up, Doc, to this brother, man. Dr. Eric Mason, man. What's up, brother?
Wade-O, what's good, brother?
Hey, man, it's good to be here with you, man.
Hey, brother. Love what you're doing.
Just Gospel, man.
Hey, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for all you do, man.
Man, well, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing with us. I want to compliment you on this publicly, bro. That Woke series, my brother. Golly, man. It was so timely, bro.
Man, that's encouraging.
So
Praise
timely,
God, man. Praise God.
I think we're in a season, right, where a lot of us are looking for answers. We're looking for hope. There's some frustration.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on. And, man, I know you've always had a pulse on this hip-hop culture, Christian rap culture, all of that stuff, man. And so I would just love to hear your heart, man, on just some of the stuff that you're seeing right now and just, man, where you at, bro?
Well, I think I'm seeing what a lot of people who, first off, thanks for having me on here.
Yes.
Honored to be on here. I think I'm seeing what everyone else is seeing in the sense of those who see that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Not Houston has a problem. America, Western culture has a problem.
Yep.
But then I think we're also saying not only does Western culture have a problem, America has a problem, the church has a problem.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we talk about the idea of race and justice and all that's going on in our country, I think that everybody, I heard another brother, a Christian hip hop artist earlier, I think it was Deuce, he may have said it, he was like, I thought things was getting better. And then all of a sudden, when you think things are getting better, you're like, oh no. But I think that a lot of us, of course, and many of us would admit, we knew things weren't where they should be. We just didn't know how systemic it still was. And so when you think about being divided about a man being publicly lynched, nobody that's gotten killed, even serial killers, nobody's left out in the sun for 4 hours.
Right.
And videoing it.
Yeah.
And they didn't even cover his body. Yeah. And so when you look at that type of re-traumatization, really that was a re-traumatization of every black person that has experienced injustice of some time, in particular, some type, but ultimately police brutality. And so whenever we saw the deaths of Eric Garner, all of these different guys replayed to us, you're not only traumatizing us from this experience, but it's re-traumatizing us in our past experiences. And so, but then when you got a situation where generally, not just whites and blacks, there are whites that see the problem. Mm-hmm. I think when you see certain segment of the white culture, even certain segments of the black culture who don't think it's a problem, that's an issue. But then when we narrow it down to the church, it's been crazy the things that whites have said to me on Twitter.
So you get invited to a lot of places where you'd only
Negro.
Yeah. You only one there.
And they keep bringing me back, so I don't know what that is, but praise God.
But what were they saying to you on Twitter, bro?
I mean, one dude was like, if I'd have known you had this much anger and bitterness, I would have never come to see you at my church. And I was just like,
wow.
Yeah, and I was like, all I said was, our country needs, I just laid out what I said. I was just like, and then I get stuff like, they start talking about the character of the guys. It's like, man, I just like, man, we're not even talking, you got to see all the facts. That just kept coming out. I was like, man, how many things have you given your opinion on that you didn't see all the facts on?
Sure.
And so we looked at those different types of things. I was getting those, and then there was some personal relationship issues with a pastor that I know. One of his elders got up and said something crazy at the church, and all the African Americans literally walked out the church.
Oh.
So I've seen all different types of things, and then the pastor is calling me like,
how do I feel?
Like, what do I do? Because my elder first off, he shouldn't have preached that Sunday. You should have. That's number one. But then you got to have some unanimity among the church. And so I'm saying all of that to say there is such a ethnic, cultural, racial divide in the church where we don't have a unified thought process. And so that's what I think the BD, Lou, and Tony, shout out to them for doing Just Gospel.
Yep.
I think having conversations like this, like my man Brian Loritz also doing Kainos, and I know my man Brian Dye in Chicago doing, we need multiple platforms where people are given the opportunity to talk, but then get on the solution side. But I think that we don't need to rush the solutions, because sometimes programmatic solutions being in place thinks the issue's been solved. And so you don't get to deal with the hard issues because you have something in place that deals with the problem. And so, but you can't deal with the external problem until you deal with the heart issue. So we look at the gospel changes from inside out, not outside in. And so that's why God first gives us a new heart. That's why Ezekiel 36 is about the new covenant first starts with newness on the inside. That now you can't do Isaiah 58 until you have a Jeremiah 36 experience. So, yeah.
Man,
yeah.
Love that, brother. What role do you think Christian rap can play in this, bro?
Yeah, I think, you would have to help me even in this season, because I don't know where the culture is anymore. And when I say that,
we try to figure out where the culture is amongst us. That's part of it too.
Yeah, and so I think Christian hip hop, because I've been a big fan of Christian hip hop for 23 years.
Oh yeah.
And know everybody. I know I love everybody in the game. And so I think that I don't think Christian hip hop is what it was to where it had a voice like it used to.
That's interesting.
So what I mean by that is, that's not a knock to Christian hip hop.
No.
But when I looked at, like, when you look at a cross movement, who literally, back in the day, of course, you had Dynamic Twins and all of them.
Sure.
Who's doing their thing I can't remember the guy in Dallas. They got a community
Danny
center.
D-Boy.
Yeah, D-Boy.
D-Boy.
So, I remember those days. So, but now you had Transformation Crusade, but then cross movement kind of came.
Give him that history, Pastor.
And so when cross movement, like, literally, people really don't understand what happened when that freaking cross movement came on the scene. They really don't understand. Can I say freaking? But anyway, it literally was, we were salivating as people who are part of the original hip hop generation. Because back then, this is when you threw your CDs away, your secular joints. So we had nothing, And
I went through that, bro.
We went through that.
I went through that.
So when the cross movement came, it was like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
And so they sort of became a theological prophetic voice.
Sure.
Which, that's what made cross movement.
Yep.
At the end of the day, they were the guys that came on the scene and literally lit things up in relation to making guys theologically aware who weren't. Ladies and people, a lot of people say, you disciple me from afar, like that type of thing. And then you had others come after them. But I think
a lot of us are like, I say this all the time, bro. There's a lot of churches and ministries, mine included, that because of what cross movement did, it inspired us in some way to do a lot of what we doing today.
Yeah. And so in watching God give them a great timeline, just a great run.
Yeah.
I think that there was no central place of defining Christian hip hop.
Yeah.
Because even at that time, this is the issue with a movement. I never forget. I can't remember who said it, so I'm not gonna say it like I said it, but it was dope. So I'm gonna say it like I said it. A movement. A movement. You know, a movement has happened when you can't control the direction of it. It's out of a central. It becomes decentralized.
I like that, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
And so what has to happen though is movements have to have influencers who may not be structurally your leader, but a group or whoever who kind of leads the pulse of what is this? You know, and I think Christian hip hop has always been a reflection of regular hip hop.
Yep.
And I think regular hip hop is there now, where you got the old guard saying that's not hip hop. This is, you know. And then like I heard Corey Guns on something recently, and the old heads was like, oh, he was on DJ Flex. He was on DJ Flex.
Okay.
Annihilated it. I mean, of course it had things in it like, God dog it. But just from a lyricism standpoint, it was like, that's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
You know, and so I think now, because hip hop is so multifaceted, it's no longer a New York thing. It's a global thing. You can't control it. And so nobody can define it. I think Christian hip hop, I'm coming to your question.
No.
I don't think there's anything ever been in place outside of, if you want to be a part of a particular record label, that we get to say, at least you gotta, once record labels begin to spread, then it changed content, because everybody become their own entrepreneur. So coming back to how does Christian hip hop do it, my question would be, does Christian hip hop still have the voice it had?
That prophetic voice.
Now, Sho Baraka now, I mean, he got me back listening to hip hop done by Christians.
Yep.
And I think that what's dope about Sho's album, me and him, he came to Philly the other day and we chopped it up for a couple hours, maybe an hour, something like that. But I'm encouraged by him actually, he didn't go the justice route, he went the black identity route. Which I think he's gained a banging.
That hasn't existed since like
1992.
I was gonna say like Gospel Gangsters or something like that.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy. Like I mean, and him being able to talk about major issues and pack them into 16 bars is just amazing.
I mean, bruh, he has some stuff about gentrification on the album.
Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was amazing. So I think that Sho is, I think personally, that what he's doing is lead, because I think everybody has their soapbox.
Yep.
That's what hip hop is. You talk about your soapbox and do it with great artistic fervor, yet connect with people who are actually connected to or need to be made aware of the soapbox that you have and why you have it. That's hip hop, you know? And so I think that now you gotta have that type of situation going on, because a lot of guys have grown up in the culture. Now they're pastors now, or they got churches, or they're in different roles. And so I think that's the natural outgrowth for a lot of guys. But I think what Christian hip hop can do is, I think stuff like that, I think really beginning to connect, like that's what hip hop always did. It always took what nobody is saying and saying it beautifully. That's hip hop, you know. And I can connect with the symphonic disposition of your musicality, but then also I'm getting rocked by the content of what you're saying in the way you're saying it. And I think we have to do, I think Christian hip, I mean, everybody can be on their soapbox, but the question is, does your soapbox connect to where people are? So, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Let me shift gears for a minute, just off the hip hop.
Yeah.
Your influences as a pastor and as a speaker, in kind of like two frames, because you have a very unique style. But it's very black church style. You get the call and response, and I love it. I enjoy it. But who are some of your influences, man?
Man, of course, my spiritual father, Dr. Tony Evans, all day and all night, was a major influence on not just my preaching, but family life, because he invited me into that. Wow. So I've been to his house. I've seen how he raised, not how he raised his kids up, but I'm saying and this is how he interacted with his kids. Matter of fact, his youngest son was in my youth group when I was the youth pastor at the church.
Wow.
And so, and so
that's an interesting dynamic, though. You the youth pastor,
yeah,
and you got the pastors. That's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, so it was really good to be a great influence. Also, it's several unknown guys. If I name them, y'all be like, who is that? A guy by the name of Joe Washington gave me my first sort of confidence. Shout out to Joe Washington, First Baptist Church of Highland Park. Dude named Nat Obey gave me my first opportunity to preach. And then from there, I think Keith Battle was a big influence on me. Because him and Heyman Cross, a lot of people don't even know some people may know Keith Battle, may remember Heyman Cross.
Keith Battle's in DMV, right?
Yeah, he in DMV, Heyman Cross is in Detroit.
Okay.
So, and so they were the first guys I was like, you could come out of that? Like, you could come out of the traditional deal and engage in street and theological lingo. I was like, oh, I think I can do that. But then I had this sort of hip hop piece to me, but then I'm a vocalist a little bit. But then the black church stuff. So Evie Hill, a big influence. E.K. Bailey, amazing influence.
You go to that preaching conference.
I gotta get there, man. I gotta get there. Yeah. And I was in the I was in Dallas in the heyday. Yeah. When Pastor Bailey, God rest his soul, was alive, and so those were some big giants of influences as preachers because I grew up in the church but didn't grow up in the church. So I didn't have this box of what preaching was, so I could pull from different places. Yeah.
I was talking to one of my homies in radio yesterday, and he was telling me, he's like, yo man, like gospel radio is gonna need to embrace Christian rap more.
Absolutely.
And I said, I think it's long overdue. I said part of the challenge though is the traditional black church has never really fully embraced Christian rap. Like It's been in pockets, but I'm like, a lot of times our outgrowth for the kind of music we want to listen to from a gospel perspective is an outgrowth of what we hear in our churches on Sundays.
Absolutely.
In some way, shape, form, or fashion, man. So I would love to hear your perspective on, just from what you've seen over the years, why it's been so slow.
That's really easy, real easy. Gospel music, what is called gospel music, comes from the church.
Sure.
Christian hip hop comes to the church. Very, very simple. So that's number one. Gospel has submitted itself under pastoral leadership and even respected it. Christian hip hop, if we admit it.
Yeah, you're right.
Little rambunctious, man. Little rambunctious. And then when you got, I know a lot of raps by heart that some of my dudes, I love you, all y'all. But I would say 80% of, it's a couple things, 80% of Christian hip hop, what it says about the church is negative. That's number one. Number two, the guys you put on wax over your songs are people that are not of ethnic minority descent. And so automatically the black preacher thinks you don't respect the legacy of ministry in the black church. I mean, I don't want to name my songs or artists, but I'm going to give you, I'll name one. Lecrae came and got me one time. He was like, this is way back. He was like, he's like, I need you to come through. I was like, come through for what? He was like, to be on my album. I was like, I don't rap, you know what I'm saying?
Rebel. Rebel.
Yeah, and so he was like, man, I realized that over the years, we've idolized white voices. And he said, I want to start trying to put black voices on my album. He said, I got Piper, I got Driscoll on my album. He said, I want you on the album. So this is what it is, just go for what you know. So I go into a room, Fish is in there, God rest his soul. I know Fish forever. Fish is like, Pastor Mace, come on in. That Puerto Rican Long Island thing he got. And so we get in the room and record it, and I just forget about it, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna call my kids, Daddy, that's you. And so I think that, if this is what Christian hip hop should have done, they should have gotten with some solid black gatekeeping preachers. and talk to them first, but then saying, can I just listen to them preaching, doing different things, and just saying, I'm gonna take snippets of this beautiful gospel communication and put it on da-da-da-da-da. And what would have began to happen is once you were respected, the doors of the black church would have been wide open. Yeah. But what Christian hip hop did is it alienated itself because most of its theological influences, and I'm talking about the theological strand, and when I'm not saying other Christian hip hop artists have theology, I'm just saying that more conservative, fundamentalist strand of Christian hip hop used all white voices. Yep. And so I think that I think that it can still be salvaged. I do. Yeah.
Yes, man, bro, that's such great insight, because I've been wrestling through that over the years, partly because that's my community. You know what I mean? That's my church community. But the other thing is, I also feel like there's an age gap.
It is.
With some of the, when you think about, they talked about the 7 major black denominations. When you look at the leadership of those, a lot of those guys are baby boomers. They were never really fans of hip hop in general, so you got an uphill battle.
You have some, but the guys are in more traditional denominations.
That's what I'm saying.
And so, but the challenge is that Christian hip hop pigeonholed itself as a youth ministry voice. Yep. And so I think that, I got to bring up, in general, I'm just going to name certain things. So when you say, like, this, because this is dope, because so I think now you have some of the guys who are in their 30s.
Yep.
If you just put out good music. Listen, I'm going to tell you, preachers texted me about Sho Baraka's album. Traditional preaching Negroes, guys. They said, Eric, you know this dude Sho Baraka? I said, man, I know Sho Baraka like 17 years. Yeah. He's like, man, his album. They were just talking about, man, this is amazing, and I played this during my sermon prep. Yeah. Wow. And so I think that when you
that's the pregame music.
30 and up. That one dude was like, I'm 30 and up is straight rotation. So I'm saying that's he can't go to the youth group and do them songs.
Right.
So you got to kind of work your way out of the youth group. Yeah. You got to. I know that's where some of your bread come from. Yep. Because I understand.
You understand the game.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you got to mature hip hop. Because there are people that would bring them to conferences, and I think there are those in the game that have done that. So yeah.
No, that's, bro. This insight. Let me tell you something, man. This is the other reason why I've always felt like voices like yours, Tabidi, guys that really had a pause. Like, I'm not saying you keep up with every new artist that comes. I mean, bro, you pastor and y'all got like, we ain't even talked about this 17 church plants you got, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean, bro? You got a pulse, you got a heart, you understand it, you talk to the artist. These voices, and we need more Eric Masons speaking into us. Yeah. I had Dr. Ellis sitting in this seat, and we talking about, bruh, we need more of those voices speaking to our community, helping the artists, and that whole piece.
I think the first wave of Christian hip hop, the theological side, did knock on some doors. One of the members of Crossmove always tells the story of his pastor. He's coming in, and he was rapping, and he came out with his cross in front of him, and walked towards him like that. And I know the pastor. And so he hates the story because he feels so bad that he did that. But one of the members across him, he had his cross held out at him in the lobby, and it was, bruh. And he's repented of that in the sense of, I'm gonna if you interview one of the members across from me, I'll just say that member across from me is somewhere around now. Okay. In this conference. Let him tell you the rest of the story. But it is the craziest story ever, man. And they have a great relationship now. But I'm just saying, Those are
Amazing.
some of the bumps and bruises, man.
Wow.
I got all kinds of stories I can't tell, man. We talk all kinds.
I know. I was saying,
all kinds
bro.
of Christian hip hop stories, man.
I bet, man. Hey, listen, I do want to give you this opportunity. I know you're working on a lot of stuff. You know, you got speaking engagements, books, all of that stuff, man. What do you have coming 2017?
Yeah, well, right now I got some video curriculum and really a Bible study out through Right Now Media. So I'm excited about that. And so what's beautiful about that is it's on the Book of Jonah. And
okay.
And then I touched some justice issues in it because it is some justice issues in the Book of Jonah. And so, but that's out. It's an 8-week series. Churches, thousands of churches are going through it now. We're excited about the Frequency Conference coming up in the fall.
Yeah.
So that one's going to be woke
I'm
church.
so mad I missed the last one, bro.
It's by God's grace. Come on. We got space for you, man. It'll be woke church this year, October 13th, 14th. Really excited, and I'm thankful to the Lord for everything He's up to, man. And I'm writing right now, so keep it lifted up in prayer. We're about to start writing this new book.
New book? Got a new joint?
Yeah.
My brother.
Blessings to you. Thanks for having me on,
Dr.
man.
Mason, thank you, man.
Oh,
thank you, bro.
Blessings to you, fam.
Wado Radio.